Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Shining Lights, the show where we spotlight members of the community who are doing their part to make a difference in their community. My name is Ben Barber, joined as always by the incredible Jacqueline Smith. Hey, Jackie.
Hey, thanks. I like the intro.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, our guest today is very fond of you, so I needed to to talk you up a little bit as well. How are you this week? How's your week been?
It's been busy, but not as busy as yours. You have no time for me. I have to do a show with you to spend time with you, which
Yes. Well,
yeah, that's fine.
That's big news today. Gmail changed their logo, and I hate it.
You'll get used to it.
I know.
Just suck it up, Ben.
I can't.
We all have to make sacrifices in this world, and of all the 2020 things, I'm gonna have to put that at the end of the list.
It's directly in front of me, and I can't stand looking at it. I'm exiting out. All right. Well, today, such a stupid intro for such an amazing guest. Today, we have an incredible man joining us who has a ridiculously awesome story, life story. I don't know how much of that we'll get into tonight, but he has been, for the last several years, I believe, been championing and founding the Rhode Island Slave History Medallions. And Jackie, I know that you have, over the past couple of months, gotten to know him quite well. So why don't you officially introduce our guest today?
Okay. Well, today I'm happy to say that I'm introducing another friend. He bumps you down a notch, Ben.
That's fine. No, I get it.
Every time I talk to him, I'm just so excited about all the things that are possible. He just makes people feel so welcome and comfortable, and everything that he talks about is just so fascinating. So let's bring on my friend, Charles Roberts.
Hello, and welcome to the world of unlimited possibilities.
Yes, everything is possible when Charles is around.
Good, how you doing? It? I must say, I hate the Gmail logo so much. That's why I use iCloud. I hated it before.
There you go.
Well, it's a evil corporation unless they become a sponsor.
Yes. Google want to
sponsor
us. Yes. Charles, how are you today?
Oh, excellent. Now that I see you guys, I've been looking forward to it ever since yesterday. I had an interview with the lieutenant governor and about the controversial plantation issue. And since then, I've gotten a bunch of phone calls about it. At Risham, we don't really take political positions, but this one is so out front for so long that it just doesn't make sense. One of the comments I made was, if you're going in Virginia, they took down the flag, the Confederate flag. So in Rhode Island, all they had to do was change a name, and it means a lot as a word, but it won't mean any difference to the state except showing that we've grown up and come into modern times. We're still Rhode Islanders. I look at it as like you go into that voting booth and you look at one side of yourself, you say, well, I live on a plantation. And the other side, you say, and I live in Rhode Island. Which one should I choose? Hello. So it's very simple to me, just to become a Rhode Islander and become one with the rest of the state.
Well, I think that you've always been able to talk about controversial things and just not, place any blame, and, you don't put people in the defensive, which is just so important, and why I'm just waiting to see the bigger things that you're going to be doing. But today we could talk about the Slave History Medallion Project, which I was so excited about when I first heard it, because it's not just a memorial, not just a monument or a medallion, but it also has the ability to kind of change with we evolve the narrative as we become more enlightened, because it has a QR code on it. So you're placing those around. But I'm gonna hand it off to you, Charles, because I get really excited talking about your projects.
Well, thank you. And I really appreciate it, because it's people like you that I made the project for, and I hope that, you carry on the message that we're trying to give. It's just evolving all by itself. We put the first one in Patriots Park, and I thank you for bringing the Daughters of the American Revolution and celebrating that with us. And I thank you for the award you gave me. I mean, so many of the indigenous and African people fought at that first battle. So, like, it's almost like the beginning of the evolution of the colonies turning into what is now the United States.
Can you mention what the Battle of Rhode Island is? Because I have known about it for 15 years, and every time I mention it somewhere along the way, I have to explain it and share it with people, because it's not well known.
Well, at the Battle of Rhode Island, Indians and Africans and young farm boys got together and formed a militia that stood against the Hessians and the British soldiers to help our army escape across the water to fight another day. I mean, it was like Dunkirk, and they stood grounds against some of the strongest
violent, aggressive.
Oh man, these guys were trained. These are Hessians from Germany, and England. I'm a reenactor, and when they give me that big 35-pound gun and they say, okay, stand there and get shot at and shot back, I told my own commander, I said, look, thank you for the uniform, thank you for the gun, but I'm going to go back to being a slave now. Give me my pitchfork. I'm going to go pitch hay. And a lot of the young people at the time actually did that, So the fortitude it took to stand up, stand and deliver is what they say, is just amazing. And they put it together in 1 minute. They loaded this thing and stuck the plunger in it and got the thing and and pull it back and then stand there. And I mean, God, it is. And then you get all that smoke and all that noise. It's really frightening. Yet these guys were really brave. So that's why I put the first medallion in them to honor them. They're called the First Regiment, the Black Regiment. That's Christopher Green. Yeah. Meets Greenwich and his soldiers and his slaves. You got to remember the slaves that got their freedom by fighting in the war were sold to the American army. This is a mercenary army. They didn't exactly say, well, yeah, okay, I'll join. Some of them did, but a lot of them said, well, look, I'm not going to send my sons, but I'm going to be sending you.
Yeah, Charles and I lately are working on getting names of some of the people, specifically from Westerly, who were offered their freedom in exchange for fighting in this battle, which should be noted is the only Revolutionary War battle fought on Rhode Island soil. So it's very important for us to remember it and the people who made it possible, and that would be thanks to Charles and your uncle.
Oh yeah, my uncle Paul Gaines. He was the first black mayor in the 70s of Newport, and the first black mayor in the state of Rhode Island. And it's because of him. He was the inspiration to me. I mean, when I was 5, he used to drag me to this rock in Portsmouth. It was really funny. And you sit there and they'd make a big ceremony in your Sunday clothes, and you'd say, oh, I'm glad when he gets finished talking, so I just want to go play. But then when I grew up to realize the significance of it, I mean, we have a monument to history and the history of the first integrated army right here in Portsmouth, Rhode Island. So I'm very proud to work towards making those stories known. And a lot of the women that were in the Daughters of the American Revolution from Bristol, we've got the Bristol chapter person right here, Jacqueline, brought those stories to light. We're videotaping, we're editing them, and we put them on our website because that's what we do. We're telling the stories of history. It's not just the black slaves, but it's also the slave masters who contributed to it. They unwittingly brought about the building of our country due to a philosophy they had that was flawed. When we talk about George Washington, he had slaves. He was a flawed individual. He believed that he had the right to use people that were kidnapped from Africa to develop his own economic development for his children. And that's one of the reasons why we have economic disparity now.
Yeah, we certainly do. There's a lot of work to be made. Ben, did you have a video?
I do. I have a video. Well, I have a video that Charles knows about for later. And when we transition to that, but you were just talking about the monument at the Battle of Rhode Island and Paul Gaines. So I have that video up from the DAR event that we did. If I'm going to share that with you just for a second.
Oh,
His Honor Paul Gaines, my uncle, who it's because of him that I've been actually inspired to do this. Ever since I've known him, we started, remember this was a rock in the back there, and now look at it. So it took, 15 years?
Well, 10 years to get it built, but longer than that, Charles.
So I'm just proud to be here with him now. So.
And what's interesting, the talk that the gentleman gave was exactly the reason for having a stone here, to give the history of Black Americans, African Americans, Native Americans in this community. And that's exactly what he talked about when he traced his history of his family. Think how many others up here could trace their possible history once they find out what this stone here, this monument is all about. And that's what we aimed, that's what we thought we wanted to do.
Oh, thank you, Ben. That's the last time I was with him before he passed, and he encouraged me. He was like the uncle that goes to all your football games and cheers you on, and he's even when you make a mistake and lose, and he never told me he was sick all the way up till I did that event, and then went to do some other events, and then he just passed. And so I've been ever since then. He's been my inspiration. I mean, he's like John Lewis to me.
Yeah.
So
well, that makes a lot of sense, and I'm sorry for your loss, but you guys have both done a lot of great things separately and together, so that's something to be proud of for sure.
Well, it's because of him that we're here, this our subject matter. I mean, Jacqueline is brilliant and a great historian and an inspiration in her own right. When we start talking about history, we go crazy.
Yeah, I know. Probably every topic that we talk about is just never ending lately, which is such a joy. It's such a joy to have that with people. So.
Go ahead, Jacqueline.
Oh no, you go ahead.
No, after you.
Oh, I was gonna say maybe we should pretend Ben is here better. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm good. I'll go away.
Yeah, yesterday we were talking about all these other things that we want to work on. Western Abenaki project, which hopefully the guest next week will be talking about his project, and all these other things that we have on the back burner that we want to get accomplished. We just have to I just have to remind myself to focus when I talk to Charles. Every time I get off the phone, Ben is like, Wow, like your mood changed.
Yeah. She calls me after she talks to you, and then she talks to me for an hour about the things that she talked to you for an hour about every time. So speaking of, obviously, Jackie alluded to it that you guys are working on some stuff here in Westerly. Where else are you looking to put these medallions? How many medallions are up so far? And we'll get to that video in a second too. But how many medallions are you looking to put around the state right now?
Well, before COVID, I got this resolution from the state of Rhode Island to became a Slave History Medallion education program represented across the state in 25 cities that were that were involved with slave-related history then, and to put one medallion in each one. Well, so we put one in Portsmouth, then we would put one in Bowen's Wharf, because we know that Newport was where the slave trade started. And even though it likes to look at itself like a wedding facility, no, they made rum. They were the part of the Atlantic slave trade. That's where the banks were, where the investors were, where they made the ships, brought them, took the rum that they created in the distilleries and brought it to Africa, traded them for slaves, brought the slaves to the Caribbean, got the sugar, and then brought it back to Newport to make more rum and continue this triangle slave trade. It's very interesting when we talk about history that people don't realize there were two slave trades. There's the Atlantic slave trade, which was trading with Brazil and South America. And then there's this triangular slave trade that we hear about here in Rhode Island. So that's one. The other one is that we just put up in Smith Castle, which is a plantation with 200 bodies of slaves buried there. That was created by Roger Williams. Everyone who talks about how great a person he was doesn't know all the story. There's a lot of what I call the unvarnished truth, and that's what the medallions, by telling the stories of people that were involved in it, bring out. I mean, who knew that Benedict Arnold's, not the trader, his father owned Bowen's Wharf, and bequeathed it to his daughters and until it got down to be what it is today. I mean, I didn't know that when you hear the word Benedict Arnold and Bowen's Wharf together, it's like, what? So history is, I was talking to East Greenwich, it's like these medallions bring us across across time, telling these stories and having them be stories that are about us. They're just history. They're not some story of who's good and who's bad, but what happened, so that we can be aware of who we were. I'm fortunate enough, because my uncle, at the age of 5, to know where I was and to know where my history, so I can know where I am now. I mean, even the history of our own family, brought up in Virginia after slavery in 1889. I mean, we've traced I've traced my family's story. So because I know my story, somebody can't come up to me and say, well, you're just a worthless person because you're black. I can say, well, no, I'm not. I'm an American.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think a lot of my self-worth came after exploring my family genealogy and family history. And there's so many things. I just want to point out that when you hear Charles talk about, difficult subjects, there's no one feels defensive, because it's just a place where you can just have a conversation. And the representative last night said, what was the wording? Be comfortable in being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I never get uncomfortable. So it's just a place where I can explore the history in our community. So, but I do have a question because it has come up when we're talking about having the medallions down, a medallion down here in Westerly. Was there any vandalism that happened to them, or, you know, is there like a hate sort of response that the community gave in any small way?
I've been, thanks to you and thanks to the woman that runs the library, I've been embraced. You know, most of the time because we're trying to tell, you know, the God's honest truth, you know, without judgment or opinion, and people volunteer their information. I'm going to Westerly, and I'll be there on Saturday because. You know, it's all the way down there. People forget about it. They talk about Providence and Newport, but Westerly, oh my God, the history that's there is unbelievable.
Just pack your passport, bring a snack for the road. You know?
Okay, oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to be at the Bridge restaurant for lunch, and I'm going to go by and see the statue that it's so much controversy, and then I'm going to visit you at the museum because. And I'm going to photo document everything because I want the people in the North, isn't that weird, to know about it. It's a fabulous place. It's a resort. I mean,
when I lived up in Providence, people would talk about Westerly, and I was like, oh, who would ever want to go there? Now I'm like, I can't get enough. It's just.
Oh yeah. And the stories we have, and the indigenous people. I want to meet. There's a woman, something Dove is her last name. It's Narragansett. I want to meet her. I want to know her stories. I want to interview her and know what is her contribution to our history. It's like a tapestry. When we put all these medallions together, all the way from Pawtucket all the way down to Wickford and Hopeville.
Hope Valley, right?
Hope Valley? Yeah. Hope Valley calls me and says, hey, what about us? And I said, what? And he says, well, yeah, let me tell you our story. And then he sends me all this information. I said, really? That happened? And then I had to say to him, well, where is Hopeville? And he had to show me on a map. I mean, that's how really ignorant we are about
the Northerners.
you know?
So Charles, an interesting thing that you just talked about. One of the places that you'll be stopping in Westerly on Saturday is the Columbus statue in Wilcox Park, and obviously there's been a lot of controversy, especially with everything that's happened this year, and especially with the fact that Columbus Day has just passed. My first thought when I saw your medallions for the first time earlier in the summer was this might be the key to any statue, to any sort of monument that is to have the QR code on it to be able to pull up the full context and history as we know it of a historical place. What are your thoughts on the technology that you have utilized with these slave history medallions being used for some of the more controversial statues that people are refusing, that people would be refusing to take down?
Well,
to add context.
Yeah, well, I'm going there because, you know, they can't take that down. I mean, the history of it, and I'm going to ask Jacqueline to tell me, because when she told me about the marble and how it was created and the stories of the immigrants that came there that carved in, I mean, these are descendants, for me, they were descendants of Michelangelo, you know, the people carving from Italy, carving this stone. I had to drop everything I was doing up here in the north and go down to Westerly immediately because I want to know about it. I want to see about it. I want to go by the museum. I want to know the story. George Washington was in Westerly. I mean, please, people don't even know that. They think that a lot of historians think they own history, you know, and they don't realize these were just people wandering around trying to develop our country. So when we talk about, because I've had a number of people come to me about the issue of Columbus. And, you know, Columbus is a part of his times. You know, he was part of in colonial imperialism. And yes, we have to embrace that truth about him. But then there's also the people that came that we need to celebrate, that brought their culture here. How could I discredit someone else's culture and think that that mine shouldn't be discredited? You know, so that's why I have to see it. I have to, if whatever I can do to help bring light to that story. It isn't a story about Christopher Columbus. It's a story about Stone. It's a story about Westerly. It's a story about what makes that town so special. And the Stone, as far as the way I would report it, is just a part of it. So, I mean, that's my take on the actual Stone itself. Yes, if we look at Christopher Columbus, the man, he was flawed. I mean, he did a lot of atrocities, and he paid for them, and he's paying for them with his name in history. But his Italian heritage shouldn't be slandered because of it. In fact, he shouldn't be slandered. He was just a part of history. I've had this issue in Providence, where they took down
It's
the
much
stone.
worse, yeah, in Providence.
Oh, God, it got so bad, you know. And I've had the issue here in Newport, and I talked to the mayor, and I've worked with Mayor Sardello and a lot of I work with Cicilline. I mean, what am I going to say to these guys? You know, where if I don't honor their tradition as they honor mine. So they explained to me about how the statue got there. People put together pennies. It's sent from Sicily. They put together pennies to have it made there and sent here, because back in the day they weren't honoring Italian culture either. You know, every immigrant goes through their time period. So why would you take their statue down? Tell the history of the statue and honor it. We had the same situation in East Greenwich at the Historical Society. There were two statues in front of it. They were made of wood in the 1700s, and it was a slave and a prisoner. Well, everybody objected to it. The Black Lives Matter wanted to march on the place and everything else. I said, it's very simple. Take them, put them inside the museum, make them part of the exhibition of the museum, and tell the story. It's simple. It's just a historical reference. And now people go there to see it. So see how it's, and I'll only give you the philosophy behind the medallion. When I was with Warner Atlantic Electra Records, you know, we made imagery like the word cool and a dope rhyme and all those kind of things till they became a popular vernacular. And that is where you take image and make it text. So the medallion is like an image, it becomes a symbol. It's an image that becomes text. Right now we call it the Rhode Island Slave History Medallions. Our board calls it the Medallion Project. Oh yeah, you're going to put up another medallion? We don't go through all that formality about it because it's now part of our history. It's normal. And these, when you put 25 of these up from Pawtucket to Hopeville, it'll be normal. You know, people will be able to get in their car and drive across the state, stop at these locations, and see the history right there where they stand. The place where they stand will be holy ground.
Well, do you want to show that video?
I was just gonna,
quick?
yeah.
Because
You running out of time?
No,
no.
you're not babbling at all. I want to talk to you all night. Unfortunately, your friend Senator DePalma, who told me to tell you hi today. Senator DePalma has me booked in a little bit. So, but yeah. So I just first want to say I love calling it the Medallion Project because I think that while the Rhode Island Slave History Medallions are of the utmost importance right now, I would love to see these medallions all over the country and giving
And
context.
represent other things as well.
I think that what you're doing is just some of the most fantastic work I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I mean, and just creating that dialogue where you can just open it up to say, well, Westerly wasn't a very aggressive place for the discussion of the Columbus statue. It was, Columbus was a terrible person, like no one's arguing. Sometimes he was. I'm sure he has good traits. But it was like, but this is part of like our heritage, and our, my grandfather and my uncle gave all the money they could at a time, and it took years to, pay for this statue that we really wanted. And so, I mean, it opened it up, and it gave me a new light on something that I thought I was very firm in one direction. So now I'm, in a different world. I'm not on this side or that side. I'm in this like newly created part, to understand the statue situation, this particular statue. I think all of them have their own conversations.
Well, it's being put in context of the time. I mean, you and the generations that follow you are why we're doing this. The generations before us that are kind of still stuck in white privilege and in racism, they're, whether they like it or not, they're going to die out, and they have to leave something behind. And since they're not going to be able to leave Confederate flags and images of degradation behind, they need to put up something else. I mean, that's why it's going to be great to put up a medallion and tell the story of Westerly. I can't wait. And by the way, if Lou DePalma's listening, he's the one that first started me doing the project at the Patriots Park.
Yes, he mentioned that this morning.
Yeah, he was my first, the first person to stand up for me, and I appreciate him deeply for it.
He's a wonderful guy, and tonight he'll be doing a cybersecurity free plug for him. He'll be doing a cybersecurity event with Congressman Langevin at 7 o'clock. Wow. But you just had an installation at Smith Castle, and let's take a look at that.
Thank you for coming to the third dedication of a medallion at the Smith Castle.
I'm going to say something that's off my original plan.
Roger Williams had at least 2 indigenous servants in 1638.
Perhaps he hoped to escape from the ship to some foreign land where he could be free.
A brief story about 3 enslaved men here that served in the Continental Army during the American Revolution.
You need to be free! You need to be free! Okay. All right.
Once for the past, once for the present, and once for the future. Katabatash, thank you.
Wow, that is one of our best videos. With that, coupled with that, each person that speaks, we had recorded their conversation so that accompanying this on our YouTube channel will be not only this is what it was like, and then this is what they had to say. So it's almost set up a standard of how we're going to be presenting this history visually, because this is a visual education program. QR codes won't be just QR codes in the future. There'll be GPS codes, and they'll talk. So we're just setting up the format so that they can be viewed that way. And I'm very proud of that. You had there was Lauren Spears of the Narragansett. She was one of the first people to speak. She sang a song from her grandmother that started off the event. Everybody was just floored. after she got finished singing, it was dead silence. I had to go in and say, "Okay, now let's start the show." It was unbelievable. So she set the tone, and you see, people came in costume to the event. I mean, it was, they came in costume to sit there. It was just amazing. We had almost 100 people, and all walked. They sat on the grass. It was like a picnic. We had chairs. Everything was. We had everybody separated properly for the social distancing. We had masks. We made sure that they were tested before they came in. Then the group that you heard was the Mixed Magic chorus. The whole reason to have them with Narragansett, everybody's culture was represented, and that song that you hear in the background. Oh, when they started singing, then the director of the Mixed Magic Theater did a poem. You only heard the end of it. That woman had everybody just jumping in their seats when she sang did this, that you saw her energy. And then you had Bob Geek. He's written 17 books about this history. And he spoke, and each one of he had his representatives from the education program. They each spoke. And then you had my three guys. I was usually the fourth guy shooting off their muskets. I must say they're in their winter clothes. I only have the summer outfits. I freeze every time I get around them. But I mean, so we were all represented. That was the first regiment. They made a salute to the Black Regiment and to the indigenous people that fought in it, right there at Smith Castle, which is a plantation where 200 slaves are buried. So when we talk about the plantation, if they want an example of it, go to North Kingstown. There it is. So that's what we try to do. We try to make this a living history.
A living history is a wonderful way to sum up everything about the Rhode Island Slave History Medallion Project, the Medallion Project, whichever way this goes in the future. It's about creating a living history, and the work that you do, Charles, is just profound. So thank you for our generation and future generations. I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done in all of your efforts.
No, you guys are great.
Come on.
We think you're great.
We do. And check out everything at rishm.org.
Yeah, that's our website. Yes, and it's almost self-explanatory, and you can get. If you want to study the snippets of history we have, it's all right there for you at the flick of a button.
That's
Jackie?
excellent. Ben and I thank you for your friendship. You're wonderful on all fronts, and we're just so glad that we know you.
Well, I appreciate it. In the future, we'll have even more controversial stories to tell, so that we can continually share the evolution of this project. Let's see what the ceremony will be like in Westerly.
Yeah. Charles, I could talk to you all day, every day. If you want your own show sometime, let me know.
No. I have enough problems.
So, all right. Thank you so much, Charles, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Okay, thank you, and God bless.
Bye, Charles.
You too. That man is amazing.
Yep.
I know that you like him more than me, and that's fine. It's fine. I like him more than me too. So, all right. Do you want to segue out of this?
Nope. I think you have to get to your next job.
I do. I'm sad. I want to just talk to Charles for the rest of the night. You know what? I think I'm going to end with this speech that Charles sent, that we used for another show with him, because it sort of, when you talk about the two main things that he talked about today, which was the slave history medallions and the Vote Yes on One initiative that he talked about last night, A lot of it, I mean, it's just about like, respecting individuals and the culture and acknowledging all of that stuff. And he made a video, a beautiful video with that is a speech of John Lewis's last words that he made and shared with us. So I'm going to end with that. And please check out rishm.org. And if you have a story in your town that you would like Charles to know about, please contact him through there, or you can contact Jackie and she will get you a hold of Charles or me, whatever you want to do. But thank you so much. And thank you, Jackie. It was nice getting to spend 42 minutes with you today.
I missed you.
I missed you too. All right, here it is. Thank you guys. Have a great night. Thank you once again, Charles Roberts. You are amazing.
While my time here has now come to an end, I want you to know that in the last days and hours of my life, you inspired me. You filled me with hope about the next chapter of the great American story when you used your power to make a difference in our society. Millions of people motivated simply by human compassion laid down the burdens of division. Around the country and the world, you set aside race, class, age, language, and nationality to demand respect for human dignity. That is why I had to visit Black Lives Matter Plaza in Washington, though I was admitted to the hospital the following day. I just had to see and feel it for myself that, after many years of silent witness, the truth is still marching on. Emmett Till was my George Floyd. He was my Rayshard Brooks, Sandra Bland, and Breonna Taylor.